Yeah. Look at us, though, man.
It's bad video.
Who would have thought we'd been sitting here?
I know, right?
It's kind of fun. So,
love it.
Hey, for the record, I'm just going to start it by saying that you are absolutely one of my favorite guitar players.
Shucks.
I know. And I'm going to get all that out of the way because, quite frankly, it's...
I like your boots.
Thanks, man. These are some Doc Martens.
Okay.
But they're canvas. They're not leather.
No, they're cool. They have kind of like the military vibe.
Yeah,
I like it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
One of my favorite things about you is not just your playing, but it's how pretty much the whole story of how you just be this Fort Worth kid who has become this guitar god. And I say that kind of loosely, but it's the truth because
right on.
You are originally from Fort Worth, right?
No, I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. Actually,
really? When did you move to Fort Worth?
For college, to TCU. So I started there in 2001 and finished in 2005, and just never went back home.
Right on. So what part of San Francisco are you from?
Well, it's a town called Menlo Park. So San Francisco is at the top of the peninsula, which is that strip of land where they extends down into Silicon Valley and San Jose. So I grew up kind of in the South Bay-ish. A town called Menlo Park, which is famous now because that's where Facebook is headquartered.
Really?
So real soulful place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to Fort Worth as soon as you could, is what
there you go. Yeah.
And
exactly.
You graduated from TCU?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. What kind of degree did you have?
I have a degree in journalism with an emphasis in advertising and public relations.
Right.
So I was in the communications school.
Yeah. So it's a kind of all-encompassing marketing kind of degree, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think TCU actually has a marketing degree, which is a little bit more, maybe I don't want to say sales-facing, but perhaps that's what it is. Whereas the PR advertising is more directly, you're working with the press and you're working with how to sell the message.
Sure. So
not necessarily the product, if that makes sense.
Right. So going back to what I was saying about the favorite things, you were able to take your education really and I think and apply that to your career, right? I mean, because it seems like you've just, I don't want to say you've come out of nowhere because obviously your resume is super deep, but in the grand scheme of things over the last 10, 15 years, you've crafted it. You've crafted this career that's taken you to places that, quite frankly, very few people from this region have gone. And with levels of entertainers that are international, I mean, you've traveled all over the world. When you look at your entire career, what is the one gig that you think, man, I can't believe I did this one. I can't believe I made this one.
Wow. I mean, there have actually been a few of those moments that I'm very grateful to be able to say that there have been more than one. One of them was probably when Snarky Puppy played at Royal Albert Hall. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's Royal Albert Hall. It's where Jimi Hendrix played and Jeff Beck and Cream and everybody, the Queen, everyone, And we did a live recording there. It was a sold-out show. This was 2019. And the record actually ended up winning a Grammy. Which was pretty amazing. Of course, we didn't expect any of that sort of accolade, but I think for me it was a very fulfilling, but also kind of, sobering and pinch me kind of moment because I just remember the headspace that I was in going into that recording. I was a mess. I was so focused. I mean, it was almost as though I was preparing for an Olympic athletic event or something. I mean, the laser focus that I had going into that. Leading into the days up and, I mean, I listen to it now and I think, well, I probably could have played that a little bit better or something like that. But point being, it was definitely a moment that I will never forget. That was really special. Heck, just even this last tour with the Mark Lettieri group, we played 4 sold out shows at Ronnie Scott's. Wow. Which is, it's not a big venue at all, but it's a legendary place. I stood where Jeff Beck stood. Mm-hmm. And, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm here now. I've been busting my ass for 20 years and I'm here now, And of course, it wasn't just me busting my ass. It's everyone else that's played with me and has supported me and everything like that. But, so of course I'm grateful for the team that I've sort of assembled and all these people that have helped me get where I am. But it is those kind of moments that I go like, wow, if you had told 14-year-old Mark, who was jamming along to his CD player in his bedroom in Menlo Park, that he would be headlining at, one of these prestigious venues playing his own music, I probably would have been like, that's cool, but I don't think that's ever going to happen, So
okay, so that's fair, because a lot of people have those same kind of dreams, but as I said before, you were able to realize yours. Where do you think you were able to bridge the gap between dream and reality? How did it go from everybody plays guitar,
sure,
and everybody, there's so many fantastic players in this world,
right, and
to be able to kind of be the big fish in this huge ocean, which is really what it is, because I saw something, there was Weathers and I were talking about this morning on the phone. There's like this statistic the Guitar Center put out that said that right now in every household in the United States, 8 out of 10 has some sort of stringed instrument.
Yeah, okay, I believe that. Sure,
I do too. I 100% believe it.
Yeah,
and whether that statistic is close or made up, it just sounds so realistic. That being said, how did you go from being an uber talented and dedicated person who's honing their craft and composing their own music to playing with Snarky Puppy, playing with the Fearless Flyers, playing with Erykah Badu, sure, and rubbing elbows with guys like Mayer, and having people know who you are, that at one point in time you probably never would have, guys like Steve Vai and Satriani, who just say fantastic things about you. What in the world did you do to bridge that gap between the bedroom and the stage like you have?
I think I just never quit. You know what I mean? I think I just always was going to figure out a way to do it. Yeah. Because I don't like doing anything else as much. Sometimes I think maybe I would, but I don't know. That's a tough thing. But I've always had some kind of goal in mind, big ones and small ones. And I've always just tried to do whatever I could to make those things happen. And sure, there's a lot of luck along the way, of course. The people that you run into that you don't expect, or the situations that you find yourself in, of course. But I do feel that you can kind of create your own luck in a sense, by setting yourself up to maybe have the chance that these cool things could potentially happen. And it's all the small decisions and risks and successes and a lot of failures along the way that you learn from. And when I say I don't quit, it's like if there was a failure there, I would learn from it and either try it again a different way the next time or just go do something else, right? I think it's about being confident in what you can do and selling that. I know that sounds crazy. Maybe selling isn't the right word, but presenting what you can do in a way that other people go, oh yeah, okay, there's something here from this player. We want to work with this person, I made sure I had my professional stuff together, being on time, being prepared, having a good attitude, oftentimes taking blame for things that maybe I wasn't really at fault for, but if it makes the situation grow and better, then, I'll absorb that. Kind of, approaching situations as a leader would, even if you're not a leader, putting yourself in the mindset of this person is in charge, they're taking all these risks. What can I do to be flexible to make sure that this whole thing happens, but I don't know. It's a hard question to totally answer, but hopefully I did.
No, I totally get it. I think hard work and consistency is really the answer for everything, sure, regardless. But I think also you have to have kind of your own definitive sound, which you do. Your tone is very distinct.
I think what it is you have to be confident, but like you said, you have to have something that is yours, that you can utilize and that other people can utilize. Because I think you can say, we all work hard. Everyone works hard. But I think it's, you could say, I've been working forever on this and nothing's happening. It's like, well, maybe you need to be working differently, not less hard, just differently. and maybe that's something we don't always think about as musicians.
So through all your hard work and dedication, obviously, which is what brought you to this point, you kind of defined your own sound, your own tone. One of the things that I was always had a great time watching is when you were doing kind of your baritone series of videos.
Sure, yeah.
The internet, has changed in our lifetimes in ways that the younger generation will never understand because they've always had
crazy.
It.
Yeah.
But you started really taking advantage of the viral aspects of making videos, the consistent aspects of making videos when you were doing that baritone series and we were doing that whole series that you put out. And still, do you still put those out from time to time?
Very infrequently, but
so how did those affect you? You feel like your kind of ascension as far as in popularity and branding whenever?
I mean, it's very valuable, which is crazy because social media is such a strange, potentially toxic, environment. But there are some positives about it. If you're an artist and you have something you want to share with people, it's sort of a necessary part of your workflow. I mean, as long as you can kind of maintain a healthy relationship with it, I think that's the problem, is that there's all these sort of other things with social media that can breed, jealousy and defeat and all these kind of negative aspects. And I definitely dealt with a lot of that,
So?
Well, oh gosh, I mean, it's, you put up a post and then there's metrics. It tells you right then and there if people care or not, right? Nobody sees it, then you feel bad. If people see it and they say terrible things about it, then you feel even worse. And I've experienced all of that, who hasn't? But at the same time, I also understood that, if I don't do this, how else do I don't have a publicist, right? And even if I did have a publicist, they would probably just put stuff on social media, right? So that's how it is. I've had great relationships and a lot of love from traditional guitar magazines, which you and I grew up reading, and that was it, right? If you could get into Guitar World or Guitar Player, then that was the thing.
You remember Guitar for the Practicing Musician?
I had a subscription to that one, yeah. And so, I of course, I'm still grateful for that kind of media attention, but beyond that, people consume through social media, and so I knew that it was going to be a part of my creative output somehow. And I had some young friends that were saying, I know you don't really want to do this, but maybe try to put up a video every now and then. And I sort of started to, I guess, kind of at a time when Instagram and Facebook in particular still had kind of organic reach, and musicians were just starting to kind of take advantage of it. Isn't that funny how it used
to be kind of pure?
Yeah, well, that was when the Baritone Funk Thursday thing kind of took off. It was not really on Instagram. It was actually on Facebook. Because you could post a video and not pay for it or not. I don't even know if I was hashtagging anything necessarily. It would just get seen and people would start sharing it. And so that kind of started the whole trend of me doing these things. And it was just an experiment. Well, I like baritone guitar. I've been fooling around with these things, but I wonder what would happen if I played funk R&B rhythms on these. Yeah. And it was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I started programming these little beats and demos and things, and that's kind of how it started. But yeah, I mean, probably from 2015 until 2021 or something, I was pretty busy putting up content, on various platforms. And my YouTube channel is a bit of a slower growth because I find YouTube they like production value. Right. Not really cell phone videos. For sure. So it takes a little more time and money, obviously, but I have grown that aspect as well. But seeing kind of how people reacted to it kind of kept me inspired to keep doing these little jams and keep interacting and building a sound and a profile, a brand for myself as well. He's the guitar player in this band, Snarky Puppy, but he does his own music, and it's sort of like this funk rock hybrid instrumental stuff. He's got this baritone thing that he does, and people started kind of picking up on that, so I kept giving them little skittles along the way, and had I not done that, I don't know what my career would look like.
Yeah.
You know,
I enjoyed them. I mean,
Thanks.
They were super cool.
Some of them are good. Some of them are
well,
weird. But
I mean, and that's you being an artist. I mean, we're always going to be the most critical of of us. But speaking of critical, and kind of a funny question, but honest question.
All right.
What do you hate about guitar players?
What do I hate about guitar players?
What do you hate about guitar players? Because I can tell you that working here, I have the opportunity
deal with a lot of them.
to deal with every type of guitar players. And I can pretty much narrow down why. But really,
gosh.
what do you hate about guitar players?
What do I hate about guitar players? Oh my goodness. I don't. I know there's a really clever answer in here somewhere, but I'm reaching for it. What do I hate about guitar players? I don't know. That's a weird question. I don't think I hate that. There's nothing I hate. If it's something I hate about guitar players, it's probably something I hate about all musicians.
Okay, fair.
But guitar players in general, I think we do have a bit of a superiority complex.
Yeah.
Maybe we're a bit egotistical. This is tough to say because present company included, all of my guitar player friends are very respectful, nice people who understand how to be in a band and play music and value their talents and their gifts and stuff. But
okay, let me rephrase.
Well, okay, and this is going to sound really hilarious coming from a guy who has signature gear that he's helped develop. But I do find that there is sometimes a bit of an emphasis on the equipment. Mm-hmm. Man, your guitar sounds great. Well, if I'm not playing it, what does it sound like?
Right. Right.
You know, that actually, I heard a crazy story. This might not even be true, but I guess it was Larry Carlton that said that in a studio. Somebody was like, "Man, that guitar sounds awesome," and he took it off and put it in the stand. He goes, "How's it sound now?"
Yeah, exactly.
I just thought that was the most baller. You know, it's like talking about guitar players having a complex, or whatever, but. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I do.
And this is coming from someone who's taught a lot of lessons and taught a lot of players.
Sure.
And, you know, I think sometimes guitar players, we get fixated on the gear and we get fixated on the playing more than we get fixated on making music.
There you go. I like that because
it's
that is
gear
the truth.
and physicality on the instrument. Yeah. And it's like, look, you can have great gear and great physicality, but if you're playing songs that aren't songs or there's no artistic substance in there that I can latch onto, I'm not gonna be interested in it.
Yeah. And for me, it's also you were touching on it a little bit earlier. It's kind of one of the keys to your success, but the individuality, the taking the essence from other people and making it your own and trying to become something that allows you to still have your own brand and sound, but still take from those. I feel like there's just way too many, artists that don't understand how absolutely important that is. And just because you can play this lick or you can play that lick,
right.
I heard one time, I think my favorite thing about guitar players is like their lead guitar players mostly are just lead, like guys that wanted to front a band but can't sing, thing, and that's kind of what it feels like. It
could be, yeah.
But no, I'm not hating on guitar players.
No,
I'm a guitar player, and I think across the board, the one thing that I've enjoyed the most and I've been able to do through you and a lot of other great players around town is just learn and figure out, you've really taken to teaching. You have a series out.
I have a couple courses. Yeah. I don't teach private lessons anymore, but,
right.
But I have some courses that are like the video, and it comes with tabs and scores and backing tracks and things. Yeah.
Those, and being able to learn from guys like yourself has been invaluable. And I think as we get older as musicians, we start to learn that there is no end. There's no degree. There's no cap. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
It's almost like the black belt in martial arts really just being the beginning. You know? But you're nowhere near the beginning. You've got a lot of things going for you. What's on the horizon as far as, I know you just got back from Europe and you were touring there, but what does the summer look at? Do you have anything big coming up that you're super excited about?
Yeah, so Mark Lettieri Group is doing 3 shows in Tokyo at the Cotton Club, which is another one of those oh my gosh, how did I get here kind of moments, because I've been dreaming of that for a long time. So that'll be really cool. very thankful that is occurring. We've got a couple sort of like jazz festivals in the summer. I'm not doing too much. Full disclosure, my wife and I are having our second child.
Nice.
So that's happening in like a month.
You know
We're having a girl.
Oh, nice.
Girl number 2. So that's awesome. That's the big thing, which means that there's going to be a slightly less amount of playing. But the next couple things are very cool and very specific. I'm doing like some guitar camp stuff with Corey Wong. I'm doing a big music camp with Snarky Puppy. Another guitar camp with Andy Wood. So I'm basically just hanging out with my friends,
super cool guys,
and playing this summer. Yeah, so it'll be a cool one. And then the fall, I'm not really sure. I do want to write another baritone based record. That's the big Post-it that's on my desk right now. Let's get that done.
When you talk about camps, as a guitar player, it's real easy to believe that we, especially with all the resources that we have available to us with the internet, where do you think the real value comes into attendance of camps like that?
Interesting.
Where do you think that the average student will go during that short journey, and how is it different than anything they could get online?
I think that interpersonal connection with the instructors is very, very important. I think for two types of students, you could be you just love music, you love guitar, it's part of your passion, but you don't want to play professionally. You can still get a load of inspiration from this, because you get to not only just learn from people who you maybe look up to, but you get to meet all these other students. I think that tends to be the biggest thing with these camps, is these campers, I like these word, the campers, they go home with friends for life. Yeah. You know, they met in a jam room that I was hosting or something, sure, and I paired them up and like, okay, you guys got to play together, you know, and now they're pals. And I think that's really cool, because all those personal connections you asked about, how did I get here? Personal connections, you know, the people that are my friends and the people that I've worked with and who've brought me into their fold. And so I think with those camps, it can be the same thing. You know, you're just making friends, and you have a commonality. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to meet, you know. And I've definitely followed up with some people that have come to the camps, and then maybe I gave them a private lesson or something one-off, and they were like, yeah, man, I've been working on what you taught me, and now I've written 4 songs and all these. And you're just like, yeah, that's what this is about, you know. And then for campers that come that maybe are wanting to pursue a career in music, they get to talk to people that are doing it, and we can tell them all the, you know, the truth sure. about making a living, you know, as an artist or a player. But really, I think it's just about the connections. And then, you know, every now and then you might get to see, you know, me get on stage and sing a Metallica song or something like that. That's pretty fun. Play drums on a Sublime tune or whatever it is.
Right.
You know?
Well, you know, you mentioned making a living as a musician, being able to actually see that. Being on my side of things, certainly not with the touring experience that you have, but being able to see people come through and understand the reality of everything. It feels like you've done a really great job at making sure that you've been multifaceted when it comes to, quite frankly, streams of revenue and things that actually help you make a living. How important do you think it is for musicians, especially people who are instrumentalists or people who are trying to build a brand? How important do you believe it is for them to make sure that they have a few different avenues? And where do you think the most important focus should be in the beginning?
Well, I mean, I definitely started diversifying probably later into my career. I mean, when I was first starting, it was strictly gigs, you know, live performances and recordings, I guess, but mostly gigs. And as that developed to where I had, you know, the courses and instructional things and endorsements and stuff like that, you know, I sort of like feed them all somewhat equally, maybe not quite as much. I mean, I'm not putting out a new guitar course every month or something. I mean, I do maybe like one every 2 years or something, one every year maybe. But I think a lot of it just has to do with where your interests lie. Like I have friends that are very interested in the education aspect. And so they're constantly doing that more than they are making records or playing shows. You know, my passion is creating the music and making albums and playing shows. Now, do I want to tour for the rest of my life? I don't know. We'll see. So in that regard, it is nice to have a few other things, but building the sort of profile to where all of the streams keep going is kind of the most important thing. But I would say, I mean, find the things you're most passionate about and put the most effort into that. And then I think the rest of it will kind of fill in the gaps, so to speak. And then, nobody's above any gig, right? I'll do anything. I got the family to provide for, right? So it's like, if it makes sense and I need to do it, I'll do it.
Sure.
Sure.
Well, there's something to be said about that, because at the level that you've operated and where you're at, I think everybody would just make the assumption that you're just, you don't need to do those
well,
things.
I wish they would assume less. I still like playing on people's record. Like, hey, I'm home. You can call me.
What are some records that you've played on that you just look back and you still listen to those tracks every once in a while?
Well,
they're kind of the special ones.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are probably, stuff that my friends have made or something. I mean, there's some notable people there in my discography for sure. Like the Kirk Franklin stuff is always great to listen to. But, I mean, what are some stuff I just recently did? There's a guy this just came to my mind right now. He's a trombonist from Denmark, I think, named Christian Persson, and he has a band called Nine Sparks Riots. And it's this he played trombone on the Baritone Sessions Volume 2 on Starcatchers. And he's super funky. He makes super funky music. And he had me guest on a track of his called High Valley Roundhouse, I think. Yeah. And it's just really funky, and I love what I played. Okay. and it's a great song. Yeah. And so I go and listen to stuff like that my friends did. Yeah. In fact, if you're interested, there's on my Spotify, there is a playlist that says like Mark's Sessions or something like that. And there's probably 100 or so songs that I just thought were really great from everyone from, there's all sorts of stuff up there. Gospel, funk, rock, progressive metal, all sorts of things.
Crazy.
And some of the artists you've heard of and some of them you haven't. And I would encourage you to check out the ones that you haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. A lot of people go unnoticed. One of the people that I think often goes unnoticed is as guitar players. I think you'll connect with this, but it feels like in our careers we kind of bond with a bass player. Right?
Sure, yeah.
We kind of bond with someone that knows us and that learns our licks, that knows how to fill in the spaces, can do the anticipation stuff.
Yeah.
Who's that bass player for you? I think I know the answer.
There's
easily.
A couple. Yeah, I mean, of course, Wes Stevenson.
Yeah.
Of course, Michael League. Of course, Braylon Lacey. Of course, Joe Dart. I'm sure I'm forgetting people, but those folks I've been in studio sessions with, and they've played on my stuff, and I've played with them in bands and whatever, and I love bass players that have big, fat, great tone and can really groove. Like, here's the thing I look for in a bass player. If it's funk, it's got to be funky. And if it rocks, it's got to rock. Okay. You can't fake either one of those things. Yeah. I played with players that are like, I can play funk because I checked this thing out or whatever. Right. But or I can play rock, but it doesn't rock. It's to this or to that, right? So, and this goes for any instrument, really. But if you're going to be versatile, you really have to study the nuances of what makes those styles the styles. And so I try to surround myself with musicians that really speak those languages,
And I know this is a low-hanging fruit question, but I've got to know, like, what's your Mount Rushmore for players, not bass players, for guitar players? Oh, that's the for me, when I hear you're playing, there's so much in it. And I can kind of...
There's 4 faces on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, right? Let's go with 4. Let's go 4.
Yeah, right. Probably Jeff Beck, Probably Edward Van Halen, probably Prince, and then the fourth one might be a bit of a wild card. I'm not really sure, actually. Who should be the fourth? Who do you think the fourth? If now that I gave you those three, who do you think the fourth face would be? I'm just curious.
Probably Billy Gibbons.
Really?
Yeah. Not for technical prowess, not for anything, but honestly, because he just does something no one else can do.
Well, all right, let's put Billy up there.
You know?
Cool.
Maybe. I don't. You know, I'm a big fan.
I love me some ZZ Top.
Yeah,
man.
I do. So you're known for the style of music that you play is obviously not mainstream. It's it's about as far away from a lot of junk.
Cool.
Don't say that. It's the coolest ever. But what I'm saying is that it's not really. It's not something that you're going to hear in mainstream music. But as it turns out, there's a lot of other things that are complete opposite from that. Let's say like the blues and jazz and things. I know you've got a lot of funk and stuff in your music, but when it comes to like roots music, and let me start that question.
Okay.
Considering that your music is so fashion forward, what is your favorite music to play that might be like the opposite genre? What do you find yourself attracted to when it comes to root style playing, acoustic style playing?
Sure.
Like what pulls you from that, and where your interest lies? That makes sense.
Totally. I love listening to great slide guitar players and great pedal steel players, because I am neither of those things. Mm-hmm. If you call me to play slide on your record, it's going to be okay, but it's not going to be. There are other people you should. I'll probably give you somebody else's number if you did that.
Sure.
But I love hearing old school country slide, blues slide, gospel slide, that kind of stuff. I love playing blues. I probably should go back and do more of it, because I kind of, when you hear a real blues guitar player, you're like, that's a real blues guitar player.
Yeah.
Every time I start to play it, it goes left field somehow, which I think people really like.
Me too.
Yeah, and I think, there was definitely a period of time in my history when I was in college and I would go to the blues jams at like the Keys Lounge and J&J's, and those places.
Yeah, of course.
And I would sit in and play, and I think there were definitely some real Texas blues guitar players there, and then I was kind of like the guy that was doing the weird Jeff Beck stuff.
Right.
Which I think some people thought was awesome, and other people were like, come on, man.
Well,
so
those jams, man, the guys that go to those jams, Fort Worth has some really great players. I always try to talk a little bit about Fort Worth people, because we are here in the Stockyards. Leo Saenz.
Of course.
My gosh, what a monster.
He's amazing.
What a monster.
I learned a ton from Leo.
Yeah.
We used to jam together a lot, share licks and all that.
There's just, that guy is I know y'all have played quite a bit together, and he's just amazing. Who are some other people from let's just say Texas, that you really like what they're doing and kind of their trajectory?
Yeah, when I was playing around in town, Leo and I would play together a whole lot. I definitely learned a ton from playing with Leo. There's another guitar player named Todd Parsnow, who was in the RH Factor and worked with Kirk Franklin and what's his name? Lucky Peterson, I think he was Lucky. Unbelievable guitar player. Great. Blues, jazz, like the real deal. Definitely learned a lot from Todd. Noel Johnston, great friend of mine who taught me a ton. He's more jazz. I call him a modal dork, because he's all about harmony and crazy concepts and really eye-opening stuff. So we've hung out for a while. Gosh, there's so many great guitar players around here. Again, I'm probably going to get in trouble for not mentioning somebody that's on the tip of my head. Well, Andy Timmons is here.
Sure.
He's one of the greatest in the world.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
He's a great friend. We actually wrote a song together. I need to finish it.
Did you really?
Sorry, Andy, I'm working on it. He's probably, when are we done with that? Oh gosh, great friend of mine. I used to play at church with him, Nakia Hill.
Really?
Great soul R&B gospel player. Learned a ton from jamming with him. Alan Cato, another great R&B fusion player. He played with Michelle and Diego cello forever. There's tons, man.
Yeah.
You know,
it's really amazing how much of a resource this area has become for the music industry, because there's just so many people popping out at DFW and really doing good things right now.
Yeah.
The Fearless Flyers, I think, probably, especially online, they've done such an amazing job at creating their identity. What has it been like working with those guys? I mean, it feels like they're just at the top of the game. Obviously, you are too, but it's just a whole almost phenomenon that's happened, in my opinion. You know, you've seen these great careers. It's a
weird thing, that's for sure.
You know, Corey Wong is
sure.
Just absolutely probably the epitome of the best rhythm, player I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. The guy just does it perfectly in a way that I've never seen anybody do. And, Joe Dart, and it just all makes for just a crazy, unbelievable mecca of talent that is the Fearless Flyers. How did you land?
Well, it's a funny story because it sort of came together just via a couple emails. So I think this is the story. Jack Stratton, who's the leader of Wolfpack in that band, had this idea for a band with guitar in 3 registers and a really funky drummer. So standard tuning, baritone, and bass, and then a great funk drummer. And so he sort of set. He's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Corey, you're gonna play guitar. Joe, you're gonna play bass. We need a baritone guy. Well, who's that? And then one of them came across one of these baritone funk, and they were like, oh, Lettieri, the guy from Snarky Puppy, does this baritone thing.
Yeah,
get him. And then I was like, okay, well, we also need to get Nate. Okay, go get Nate. And so I got an email from Corey basically explaining that. And the email was, hey, we're starting this new project. I'll be on guitar. Joe's going to be on bass. Hopefully you will be on baritone. And hopefully Nate Smith will be on drums. And I told him no. I turned it down.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, "What? Who are you guys?" Like, what? Like I knew Wolf and I knew Corey. I had played with Joe once, and I loved all of them. I mean, that wasn't the issue. It was just sort of like, well, what? I need more information.
Yeah,
I'm really busy, as I know you guys are, of course.
Sure.
I got all this other stuff going on. Like, tell me, what is this thing, man? I don't know if I'm ready to commit to something right now. Right. So I didn't really say no out front, but it was like, it's looking like, what are we doing? What's going on? And anyway, so I thought about it for, I don't know, a little while. I talked to my wife about it, and she was like, what do you got to lose? Like, it'd be really fun, Yeah. And a part of it was just sort of personal because I wasn't totally comfortable being the baritone funk guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I thought it was a cool thing, but I was like, no, I do these other things,
Sure.
Play leads and I'm funky without a baritone, whatever. Ego. We talked about guitar players having ego, right? An hour ago, whenever it was. So I got over it and I called Corey back. I was like, yeah, man, this will be great. And apparently he was like really stressed out for about 40 minutes, however long it took me to have this conversation with.
Really?
Yeah. He was like, oh my God, it's not going to happen. What are we going to do for baritone guitar? So sorry about that, Corey. And then I guess apparently they had got Nate independent of me, or maybe he came in or got the email after me or something. But long story short, we all met up in LA and put together the first EP. It was very organic. We did the whole thing in like 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the songs are 2 minutes long. So we just sort of came up with these little jams, put them together, recorded it all live. Nate and I were like very surprised when they pulled out the flight suits and the stands and all this. We were just like, what have we gotten ourselves into? Who are these lunatics? But that really was what made that band identifiable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would have been
genius, man. Well, it was this whole new thing that
I know. And I mean, I'm not saying I know it was genius, but I know that it was a very unique perspective. And you see these 3 guitars on a stand and this very simple drum set, and you're like, oh, it's Fearless Flyers. There doesn't even have to be anybody standing behind the stands.
Sure.
And so that's the thing now.
Wow.
And we have a new record coming out. Probably by the time this will be out, we'll have a new
Super
album
cool.
out.
What date?
I think we're putting out the first single next Friday or 2.
Wow.
So, but it's cool, man. We did, I think it's like 8 or so tracks. It's a little different than, like, there's still some of the hyper funk, micro funk kind of stuff going on, but there's also a lot of textures and kind of cool, moody things, but it's still very much the Flyers.
Well, man, I'm
It's
super
band,
excited
man.
to hear it. That band is.
We need to play in Texas. Well, we did play in Texas. We played in Houston last
Come play
summer.
Billy Bob's.
We should.
Come play at Billy Bob's.
That would actually be pretty cool.
Bro, it can happen.
We could wear
It can
boots.
happen. It can happen.
All right.
It can happen.
Okay.
Let's do it.